Again at my local beach, Pulverhide Beach, Europe over there. Significance being it's VE Day, so I'm going to do one for VE Day today. And I call it Liberation. It's about my dad's experiences at the Battle of Arnhem. Now, my dad was captured pretty early on in the fight, so he was quite perturbed about that. He wanted to be out there, but he was wounded and prisoner of war for quite a while. But he managed to escape in the end from the long march that they went on, the March of Death as it was called in the end. And I call it Liberation. So let's keep it going. At the back of the glider, awaiting our fate, when the hole opened up between me and my mate. A bit of a shock, it gave us a fright, but not for 1 second our will to fight. Anti-aircraft fire now bursts all around, flashes and smoke rise from the ground. We bank and we dive, and we pitch and we yaw. And the Nazis below, they send us some more. And now we've landed the gliders, and are again under fire. No radio contact, we need to be higher. Into the woods, fatal decision. Lo and behold, a Panzer division. On the pan to the fire comes to my mind, as a stray piece of shrapnel enters my spine. My consciousness lost for God knows how long, but when I came round, something was wrong. 2 of our soldiers firing over my head. I was shouting and cursing. They thought I was dead. And now completely surrounded, with no way to run. My legs don't work, and they've taken my gun. To a prisoner of war, I'm now resigned, with thoughts of paralysis eating my mind. But within a few days, and to my great delight, the feeling came back, and I was back in the fight. Now to a military prison at Frankfurt on Main. Questions and questions, rank, number and name. I kept my own counsel, and keeping my head, nothing was learned because nothing was said. And now getting no joy, I was taken away by cattle truck train the following day. I remember the shunting, my mind is still scarred, and counted by big shaft by a cruel Nazi guard. At the end of the line, a prisoner camp, crowded and cold and squalid and damp. There wasn't much food, we had to make do. Black bread and potatoes and watery stew. I recall one night with some disbelief. A watch was kept and we caught as a thief. Guilty as charged, a hard lesson he learned. He was dragged to the stove where his hands were burned. Needless to say, he was screaming with pain, but nothing was ever taken again. On Armistice Day, I turned 21, but for a prisoner of war, there wasn't much fun. I remembered my mother and what she had said. On my 21st birthday, I could have a laid in bed. So there I was laid when the guard came along. No presents were offered, or even the song. "What are you doing?" he abruptly inquired. And the key for the camp was what I required. But lacking in humour, a typical Hun, he threatened a bayonet into me bum. Discretion and valour then came to my head. With a show of ill grace, I got myself out instead. We worked in a clay pit, in freezing conditions, starving and weak, now a war of attrition. It was down in that clay pit of which we deplored. My faith in humanity again was restored. A German called Jacob would show us compassion, and each in our turn he'd share his own rations. He'd light us a fire to stave off the cold, and then endured conscription at 70 years old. I recall the morning. The weather was harsh. We were called on parade and told of a march. A Russian advance was heading our way. We abandoned that place the very next day. Now when leaving the camp, a scene so crude. The German civilians were eating our food. The Red Cross parcels we hadn't received. The Geneva Convention they contravened. And now the March of Death, as it came to be known. Either march or die, no mercy was shown. We marched and marched till our feet were raw. We marched and marched and marched some more. Through biting cold, wind and rain, 200 miles I marched in pain. I remember the day, an ox dropped dead. The carcass then stripped and we were finally fed. In a free-for-all, I took a win and laid my claim to the ox's shin. It kept us going in our bid to survive. 2 comrades and I, it helped keep us alive. Now 16 days on the March of Death. Down to skin and bone now, we haven't much left. I'm back in pain, my legs don't work. Now I'm tied to a cart and dragged through the dirt. We stopped in a village and woke up in hell. During the night, the village was shelled. In the cold light of day, many were dead, but all of our captors had already fled. Towards the guns, we marched in haste, a chance of freedom now we could taste. An Allied camp, then our salvation, and home to England and liberation. Thank you, liberation.